Meanwhile, on a ledge 6 floors up. Good grief. Brenda. What amazing story are you about to scoop? And who will fall under your spell? Timber Woods, the lumber mogul? Or will it be Cash Wall Street, whose heart is as cold as the gold in his bank, till he met the irresistible, the fantastic? Dear Mike, have attached clip of what Brenda should wear. Make suit burgundy and gray tweed, peplum burgundy hat. Peplum. Those are peplum. And little high heels. On a ledge. Sure. 20 million readers dying to know your every move. Not me, Starr. You're not my type. I wouldn't even draw you, except I need the dough.
I've had it. Who the heck do you think you are? For 4 months, I've put up with your insults, night after night, and I've had it, up to here. So bug off, Buster.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and coming in from Planet Vulcan is Trish Coughlin.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you. This is our first, well, I guess not see you.
Yeah, not see me.
You're just
Hear
the
you.
voice in my headphones right now, but it's good to get back together post-Expo for a regular episode. It's been a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to do something comic booky afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was looking for like old comic book movies, but we did Flash Gordon and we've done Doc Savage.
Yeah.
And for some reason, The Shadow didn't come to mind. I didn't want to do Dick Tracy because it's good. And I didn't want to do The Rocketeer because it's good.
What about The Phantom?
It didn't even come to my head. So I dug deep.
Yeah.
And found Brenda Starr from 1989, based on the newspaper comic strip from the Brooklyn Tribune.
Yeah.
And
way back in the 40s.
Absolutely. The strip ran from 1940 to 2011.
Yeah.
And they ended it because storyline-wise, she'd gotten to be about 100 years old. So it was time to call it quits. But the strip lasted a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's unheard of sometimes with strips.
Yes, we're going to be talking about the 1989 film, but it wasn't the first time Hollywood had attempted something with Brenda Starr. There was a movie Serial. So I wasn't about to watch 4.5, 5 hours worth of serials to do this. And nor would they compare. Like, they're going to have different storylines the whole bit, right? And there's also a 1976 television movie, as well as an unsold pilot from 1979. So I don't know if the pilot's available anywhere. And the TV movie, again, this is them trying to do Brenda Starr a little more seriously. This one's definitely more tongue-in-cheek. And I don't know about you, if you spotted it, but it really felt like it addressed the strip-like nature of the storytelling of a newspaper strip. So you had these tiny little vignettes that always would have like a one-line gag. And it's very clever writing. And unless you're really familiar with the format of these kind of soap opera type newspaper strips, you probably wouldn't have noticed it and thought it'd been a bit weird. But I thought it was bloody genius.
It's very different. I mean, when I was thinking about this, you were talking about like the serialized strips and people doing that. It reminded me of one, and I could not find or remember the name of it. It was a kind of soap opera strip. It was a perfectly serious strip in the middle of the comics. And I remember being a kid and coming by and going, there's no joke here. What's going on? I don't understand. But it was an ongoing story.
Yeah, and I mean, as a kid, I didn't like those type of strips. Like, I just didn't want to get invested in those. I would maybe read the Spider-Man ones because, you know, I'm a comic book guy. So if I saw the Spider-Man ones, but I didn't really like that nature of it. And at least here in Canada, those were few and far between.
Yeah.
So you'd see them maybe in the Sundays or whatever. I would never remember what was going on for 3 damn panels every week or whatever. So it just wasn't something that interested me in that regard. But there's a certain art to it because you basically got to tell a story within 3 panels or less.
Yeah.
Or at least a chapter of one that's interesting enough to give you that cliffhanger to keep coming back. I actually own some original art from some of these, a couple strips.
Nice.
And mainly because they had like old movie cameras and stuff in it. I'm like, oh, I was a movie guy. That kind of appeals to me. It will look cool on my wall. But I was not familiar with the strip at the time. So, and Brenda Starr, like, I've sold some stuff with Brenda Starr. It had comic books as well, but I've never read any of it. So I have nothing to really go back to and storyline wise to kind of pull from for our remake here.
Yeah, I think anytime I kind of came across it, I sort of breezed past it, going like, yeah, where's Garfield? Where's Calvin and Hobbes? That's where my heart was.
Yeah, that's what I went to the newspapers for those quick gags, the quick laughs, right?
Exactly. And it's like I knew about Brenda Starr, like she was in my mind. So I'd come across her a few times. I think I'd seen the comic strip a couple of times. It didn't really ignite me, but I guess I wasn't probably the audience either. So
yeah, and this was a weird one because Brenda Starr seems to be quite aware she's a comic strip. And she's giving her artist some real heat at the beginning of the movie, and then I don't know if he feels guilty or bad about it, and then he enters the strip somehow. He draws himself into the strip so he can confront her. It is the strangest movie. And I kind of loved
Cool
it.
World, kind of.
You know what? I kept thinking Barbie movie the whole time.
Well, then you'll like who my director is.
I noticed I forgot to write one down, but I would have done Greta Gerwig too, because she already understands how to do this type of thing.
Exactly.
And anybody who saw that movie and loved that movie would probably love this movie, but nobody's seen this movie.
Yeah, no. I did. I think I rented it once when I was younger.
Yeah.
I had seen it.
Yeah, so this movie had originally been made in 1986, but didn't get seen until 1989. So it's kind of funny to see Timothy Dalton in this and later The Rocketeer, but his next movie was him being James Bond in The Living Daylights. So it's kind of interesting, despite the fact that nobody in North America saw this movie until 1992. It opened in Europe in 1989, but 1992. So most likely it only ever got a VHS release, maybe some small run theaters.
I think so. I do remember seeing the VHS copy, but yeah, you know what? I seem to remember I might have seen ads, but who knows? I could be just not remembering it correctly.
Yeah, it fell into distribution nightmare because New World, the company that made it, was going bankrupt. And I don't know if Roger Corman was part of the company at the time, but what little people would remember, actually New World actually owned Marvel for a while. So those first kind of early Marvels, the Punisher with Dolph Lundgren and the Captain America with the plastic ears and and there was even a Fantastic Four movie that was made and not released. Those were all under New World's low budget stuff. This was far from being low budget. In fact, Golem and Globus were trying to get this for Canon. $16 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty big for 1989.
90% of it, her outfits.
Oh, I love the acknowledgement of her outfit. She's like, I can't afford. She's like, there's something about being a comic strip because I love the outfits that I could never afford on my salary. And she's
like, I can't
constantly
realistically do that.
Yeah, and I even made a note of it, like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a constant change of wardrobe here, and it's all pretty wild stuff.
Yeah,
I kind of loved it. Part of me was like really looking forward to watching this movie and dreading at the same time because I always thought that Brooke Shields was like this talentless hack that only existed because of Bob Hope. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh, I might be wrong. Maybe Bob saw something that I didn't as a child, but I certainly do now.
Oh, see, I was a big fan of Suddenly Susan.
Okay.
I really liked that show, and she was the lead of that, and that was just, she was really good at that. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think she's pretty capable in this. Timothy Dalton is also bizarre in this as well, but he plays the stranger within the strips who the character would later marry, Basil St. John. And I had to do a little bit of research into the strip just to figure out some of the storylines and whatnot was going on. But like, who's the dude with the eye patch? Like, why does he just appear out of nowhere? And that was the kind of stuff that I really noticed was like him coming out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, of course, that would be the start of a strip next week or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he'd be there
she's
for
in peril and then he shows up.
Yeah. That's just how the nature of newspapers. How do we get her out of this jam? Or how do we get him back into the story? Like, we don't try to explain it. We just do it.
Yeah. Well, he's very mysterious. And that's the whole point of it. Like, how does he know things? Which I would like to look at.
Yeah, he is literally the mysterious stranger. And, man, to hold on to those kind of rules would be tough. And this was a brave movie. I could see it not why it wouldn't work in the 90s, 80s even. Like, 90s was already too late because by the time this had come out, you had Phantom, Batman, Shadow. Like, there'd been a whole bunch. But if it'd come out when it was actually made, it would have been the first batch of those 80s ones. It would have been leading the charge.
See, but I think, here's the thing. I think it might have been a bit too ahead of its time because there's some very Last Action Hero vibes where if you watch Last Action Hero now, it's really good. But it's because we're now very used to, as audience members, seeing like very meta type of things and just accepting there's different worlds.
Yeah, and that was late 90s and it failed. It was a huge budget failure. It cost way more than this movie. So, yeah. And really this concept didn't actually work until Barbie. And it wasn't really like real world crossing into Barbie world. I guess it happened later in the movie, but it was Barbie coming into ours. So it's not quite really the same idea, but man, it really relies on the audience being fairly savvy and familiar with the format of strips. And it does make me wonder by the time the 90s come around, these kind of strips, these were already hard to find in Canada. They might have been a little more common in U.S. papers, but we didn't see them much here.
Yeah. No, as soon as I grew up, newspapers, the Saturday wasn't the one you got because that was what we did. Every Saturday, I bugged mom and dad. We're like, let's go get the paper because the paper had the comics.
Yeah, well, my dad was always a daily subscriber, so I always got to read those and then the Sundays and I even remember like the inserts, and that's how Brenda Starr actually started. The creator, Dale Messick, short for Dahlia. That's one of the wonderful things about this strip. It was always worked on by all these wonderful women throughout its history. But she was trying to pitch multiple things to the Tribune, and it's a boys' club back in the 40s, and finally they relented and debuted in one of those inserts in the Tribune.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is right. This is what I was reading kind of on Wikipedia, but what I'd read was that the guy who really was against it and somebody was trying to get it published, he was like, no freaking women comic creators. And then after he died, they got it in there.
Yeah, they basically had to wait for the publisher to die.
Yeah, he had to be literally taken out before it happened.
But the strip lasted for 71 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's incredible. And it's a shame because it's been gone long enough. I think that the younger audience wouldn't know what it was. And to be honest, I might say that might have been the same back in the 80s. It was kind of weird when Batman hit and suddenly all this comic book stuff came out, but they were aiming all that comic book stuff to people who grew up in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And I guess because those guys would have been in their 40s. But kids wouldn't have known what the Shadow was or the Phantom was. They weren't the popular comic books. So it always bothered me that, like, okay, you know, Dick Tracy, sure, that had a lot of history in film in and of itself. But big one, the big budget one, by the time it came out, it's all these people who aren't the demographic to going to movies. That's the 20 and 30-year-olds. They didn't grow up on Dick Tracy.
No. Well, here's the whole thing. Dick Tracy, I just have to say part of the reason it probably was popular was because they just cast Madonna. They had a name. Yeah. So the people who weren't the audience were just going to see who they recognized.
Oh, yeah. They had such a big cast in that movie.
Yeah, and full disclosure, the only reason I saw The Phantom was because Billy Zane was in it.
I had free tickets, but yeah, I actually quite enjoyed The Phantom for all of its flaws. I mean, it was back then, they didn't have the budget, and so they did with what they could, right? Like, they're probably not going to get the Batman budget to do these things, but at the same time, they're really trying to be the next Batman.
Yeah, well, you know, with The Phantom, I will say this. I do enjoy, and same with this Brenda Starr movie. It's a comic strip. So if you lean into the campiness, just relax and get into it, and it will be fun.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I really enjoyed about Brenda Starr, is I was able to just relax and enjoy it and just recognize what it was trying to do. And damn, I wish more people would know about this movie. It's a good little cult movie, I think, or it should be one.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very strange, but I like it.
That's right. I'm going to run the trailer here, and we'll be right back and start really diving into Brenda Starr.
Panic is on the streets. Crime is on the loose. And one woman is on the scene.
I'm a reporter.
Brooke Shields
I'm ready.
is everybody's favorite ace reporter. Brenda Starr.
Oh my gosh.
She doesn't just find the news.
Come on, pal. Let's have it.
She lives it. Timothy Dalton is the stranger.
I'm Basil St. John.
A man of mystery who holds the key to the greatest story of her career.
The survival of the free world depends upon it. What do they want?
You.
Danger has a new shape.
Hello.
Romance has a new feel.
Take us to the Amazon. The horses cost extra.
And action has a brand new style.
Wow. Never tangle with a redhead.
Brooke Shields, Timothy Dalton.
Basil.
Brenda. Adventure never looked so good. Brenda Starr.
That was the trailer for Brenda Starr from 1989, technically 1986, but that's how IMDb lists it because it didn't come out till 89. This was directed by Robert Ellis Miller, who did Sweet November in 1968, the original Sweet November, which I didn't realize had been remade, so we might have to stick that on the list.
I did realize that, and I was looking at, I might have to pitch it to you to do, as it's a romance, and I know you're not too hepped on it. So, yeah, it might have to be a birthday.
It is definitely one of the better ones, though. Yeah, the character was created by Dahlia Messick, and the screenplay was by Delia Ephron as Jenny Wokind, I don't know why she changed her name on this, but she did like The Sisterhood of Traveling Pants, You Got Mail, and Bewitched.
Oh, nice.
The story and screenplay were also developed by Noreen Stone and James Buchanan. Noreen Stone worked on Search for Tomorrow, a TV show. She did like 30 episodes of that. That's pretty much her claim to fame. And James D. Buchanan did a movie called The Happening. No, not that one. This one was from 1967. And The Horror at 37,000 Feet from 1973.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love the title of that alone.
I know, right?
The stars Brooke Shields as Brenda Starr. You might know her from The Blue Lagoon because everybody's trying to spy her goods in that movie. Mm-hmm. And she was also in a little Canadian horror movie called Alice, Sweet Alice.
Yes.
Timothy Dalton is Basil St. John, and we did talk about him in episode 29.
Oh, was it a Bond?
No, I even said it.
Living Daylights?
No. Flash.
Oh, God.
Flash Gordon.
How did I not?
Yeah, and of course,
so long ago.
And of course, he's known for his 2 Bond movies, and I don't care what anybody says; they're very good. And he was a very good Bond, and probably the most literary accurate. Just saying.
And actually, an amazing appearance in Hot Fuzz.
Yes, he gets around. He's got quite the filmography. Mm-hmm. Tom Peck is Mike Randall. This is the artist within the movie, and he was in Pirates and Sliver. Diana Scarwood is Libby Lipscomb. Mm-hmm. I love some of these character names. They're wonderful. She was in What Lies Beneath, and we talked about her in episode 302. She was in the Burt Reynolds movie Heat, which was remade as Wild Card.
Oh.
Actually, I don't think you were in on that episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. But she's one of those ladies, when I saw her, I'm like, oh, frick, I've seen her around.
Yeah.
And I went through IMDb to find out what I'd seen her in.
Yeah. Nestor Serrano is Jose. He was in Bad Boys and The Day After Tomorrow. Very young Jeffrey Tambor here as Vladimir, who is better known in Hellboy 1 and 2, the Transparent TV show, and Arrested Development. And also, he's that guy you saw in that thing that one time. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I kept thinking like, oh my God, that's fucking Borat. I literally thought like, oh my God, Borat was stolen from this character.
Yeah, I bet you $100. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. June Gable is Luba, and with Luba and Vladimir, they're basically Boris and Natasha,
Yep.
I quite enjoyed them, even though they're just stupid Russians trying to get some secret formula. That's kind of the story here. She was in Maestro, and she made some appearances on Friends as well. Charles Durning is the editor of the newspaper Francis I Live Right.
Yep.
He was in Dog Day Afternoon and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
And tons of other stuff.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys you saw in that thing the one time. Absolutely. Yeah. Kathleen Wilhoit is a reporter. I love her name here. Mm-hmm. She's Hank O'Hare. And she was in The Edge, Fire in the Sky, and we may have mentioned her in episode 424 because she was also in Roadhouse.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Because I was like, oh, I've seen her recently.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
She was working at the bar.
John Short is Cub Reporter, Pesky Miller. I loved when I wrote this down. I'm like, oh, Trish kept calling herself the Cub Reporter back at Expo. Yeah. So I thought that was fun. And John was in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which we talked about in episode 16. And again in Maximum Overdrive, which we covered in episode 210.
Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Eddie Albert is Police Chief Maloney, and this is actually his last feature film. After that, he would do pretty much nothing but television and TV movies. But this is fairly late in his career already, and we've talked about him a couple of times in very close succession as well. We talked about him in episode 156 because he was in The Longest Yard. And then a couple episodes later in 158, we talked about Dreamscape.
Oh, I don't even remember him from Dreamscape.
Me neither.
That's wild.
But he's that guy you saw in that thing the one time, so.
Yeah, true.
And he's been doing that since the 50s.
Yeah, he's got what we call a fuck off IMDb.
Yeah. There were quite a few of those. They were hitting like 200, pushing 300 credits. I'm like, God damn it. Henry Gibson is Professor Gerhard von Kreutzer. And this character had invented, or at least claimed to have invented, some super fuel that just mixes in water and makes things go. We later find out it's a fake, but that's basically the MacGuffin for the whole movie that everybody's trying to find. He was in Blues Brothers and Inner Space and a whole lot of other things. You definitely will recognize him from stuff. He did a lot of stints as a judge on Boston Legal. Yeah,
and he was also in The Burbs, I think, with Tom Hanks. He was the creepy, part of the creepy family. He does lots of creepy roles, but he's still so adorable.
Yeah, well, he did lots of voice work too while he was around. A lot of animation as well. Ed Nelson is President Harry S. Truman, and because this movie takes place in the 40s, at least in the comic book world, it does. The modern world is actually in the 80s, which is all fascinating stuff. But Ed Nelson is in Runaway Jury and Police Academy 3 Back in Training. Tom Eldridge is the fake Captain Borg, which I don't even remember, to be honest. But he was in Rounders and What About Bob? And the real Captain Borg was played by Matthew Cowles, who is in Slapshot, Shutter Island, and we may have mentioned him in episode 247 when he was in The Money Pit.
Ah.
Yeah, so I'm going to end the cast there, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the fake one and the real one, when she's on the boat and that guy in handcuffs comes down on the window and he's all bloody, and then she escapes and like she finds out that these guys have taken over the boat that was supposed to take them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little characters, and a lot of these actors are actually listed as guest stars because they are kind of glorified cameos. I'm not sure why Timothy Dalton's so high on the list because he disappears for large swaths of the movie. But that's kind of the nature of his character too. Is like come and disperse some information. It was kind of nice not being familiar with the comic strip because you see him early on during lurking in the shadows while she's finishing off another adventure.
Yeah.
Criminy!
Mr. O'Shea, could you open the window? I'm a reporter. Thank you. Hi, I'm Brenda Starr of The Flash.
Pleasure. Ida. Get down!
Oh my gosh.
In there.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Jump in, Jehoshaphat. Go on.
I want to do a story on you. Your childhood. Your family life. Your felonies. I promise you, you won't be sorry with the results. Come on, pal. Let's have it.
Bug off, Buster.
There's this firefight with this guy in the building with the Gatling gun, and she's trying to get his story, and her competitor, Lipscomb, is outside, and damn you, Brenda Starr.
Yeah. Where is Starr?
Yeah, she's getting his story, and he's just making some shit up and then takes her hostage, but she's basically responsible for capturing Public Enemy number 3. And they literally fall out of the building and she just manipulates them in the air. So she lands on top of him.
In a very cartoonish, like that's the whole thing. Like the campiness is there. We're like, oh no, like it's very 1960s Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't really capture him. I think she kills.
Well,
Public Enemy number 3.
Yeah. which is itself a good story. But part of the story here is if the paper doesn't get a good scoop, they're going to go out of business, which might be a good way to fuel our remake. I don't know if we want to modernize it, but it is a kind of a good commentary on newspapers and how the nature of the news is changing.
See, yeah, I kind of do want to have it like the story she's going for. It's very flashy. And I kind of want Brenda Starr to be the person who's like, look, I just want to get the truth. But, you know, most of the stuff nowadays, they just sensationalize. That's all it is. It's
there's
not even true.
Yeah.
It's just sensational. So she's going against sensational.
Yeah, there's so much that's being made up, so much propaganda within the news. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of people who actually go out to seek the news and investigate anymore. And it's just, let's make some shit up or overblow something that's in the news, like,
or take something completely out of context and do that.
That could really fuel a remake of somebody who's an honest reporter who's willing to do the work.
Yeah, like I think that's at her base. She's that person who wants to find the truth. Like she's that driven.
And I mean, you can keep Libby kind of the same because she's always trying to scoop Brenda Starr, but she's also willing to go very far to get a story. Yeah. I think she's not above sensationalizing a story, absolutely, because we do see her at one point sleeping with a pilot. Just as payment.
I love the thing where she says, "Did you compromise yourself?" And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Because they don't show it, but they certainly allude to it because it's still meant to be like a PG family movie. But they certainly allude the fact that she, you know, will give up anything just to get what she wants.
When she said,
a little sex.
Yeah. Well, I got a little bit confused because I'm watching this with a modern eye in that she says, I'll give you my garter belt. And I thought he was so excited because he got to wear them. That's what I thought was going on there.
Well, at the time, he was very enticed by her figure, but that was it. She didn't get compromised in that particular scene. It was a case of her showing the little leg and, you know, oh, here's some cash and my garter. Like the cash wasn't enough. She could see he was this lecherous guy. And
but I mean, like what, he just perks up at the garter? That's what I kind of thought about.
Well, you know, like there's a whole business of women selling their underwear so on the internet. So I think that plays just fine.
Oh,
I don't have that fetish, by the way. I just know it exists.
This is Trisha's naivete at the fore now, I guess.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole thing. It's gross, but it exists. So that was fine by me. I get it. He was this lecherous pilot. Yeah. And it eventually got him under her thumb as kind of this thug for this rival reporter.
Yeah. And see, the whole thing, too, I thought, and again, a modern take on it, when I was watching her get the formula, all I could think of was she was enticing him with like, we're going to be rich. Yeah. We'll sell it to the highest bidder. I thought she was going to do that rather than just have the story.
Yeah. It just popped in my. I love the big reveal of Timothy Dalton going, hey, where are you from? Brazil. Oh, yeah. Totally got that from your very British accent.
Exactly. Well, they're in the bar. Oh, no, we don't have a telephone. You have to go to Guadalajara.
That was pretty funny.
That made me laugh so much. I shouldn't, but it did.
Yeah, because he's just stone-faced and quiet the whole time. And then, of course, they leave and he pulls out his phone.
Just so posh. And a posh British accent, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
The movie actually kind of gradually gets sillier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have to say, too, this is the other thing. You don't know who Timothy Dalton is, but man, they are shooting him really well in this movie. Because the whole time I'm thinking, like, I get it. This guy's a handsome effing devil. He really is.
Well, they were definitely going for a vibe there. They were going for the mysterious, handsome guy in the shadows. The characters drawn with the eye patch and always kind of lit to be looking handsome.
It
or whatever.
works.
And they pulled it out in the comic books. I mean, him with the Black Orchid as well. That's all straight from the comic story strips.
All my life I've wanted to go up the Amazon.
Yes, you would. When all the other girls were playing with their paper dolls.
So you were the one who sent me this.
My family cultivates them.
What a lovely hobby.
Not a hobby, I fear. A necessity.
Necessity? Why?
It's nothing.
Basil, you can tell me.
An affliction. A curse on the family bloodline. Without the serum of the Black Orchid, members of my family go insane before their time.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, I do have a question about the Black Orchid. It says so they don't go insane before their time. So there's a time they're supposed to go insane?
I don't know. I didn't understand it either. It's fine.
I know. But you know what? There could be something about that there, whereas the serum is also part of a story.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe, and I don't know. The thing that they're going for, which is basically acetone, they're trying to find this professor for this, because I guess they were in an energy crisis. So finding a formula that could turn water into fuel, that's a big thing. And really, it's just this stuff exploding in the engines and causing like the big burst of energy that we're seeing in this footage, and then it just melts the engine.
It doesn't count as fuel if you only use it once.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody knows that at the time. And by the time they find Kreutzer, he's croaking. Like he doesn't get to say anything. So yeah, they're running around with these little vials, and in the end, the MacGuffin meant nothing, but the Russians are vying for it. Reporters are trying to find it, and we've got competing papers trying to break this story.
Yeah, and you've got France, France, the UK, and Germany were all at that little,
where everybody had their spies in this restaurant. No locals. It's all full of spies.
It's all full of spies, and conveniently having their flags just on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Let's announce who we're spying for.
Yeah.
It was like this UN of not so sneaky James Bonds.
Yeah. It's not spying when you announce yourself.
Yes, like you just walk around with these tiny little placards to set on the table, or maybe those were just reserved for those spies. Like this restaurant is specifically for spies, and it just happened to be the only one that the stranger knew about.
Yeah, it's like going after screaming, "I'm stalking you!"
Yes, speaking of stalking, that is pretty much what Mike Randall does. We have him going into the comic strip, and he kept missing Brenda Starr for a good while. Yeah. As she's coming out of the hospital from her first adventure. And when they finally catch up, like Brenda's pretty much in character the whole time and in her world and in her strip. And then she bumps into him. I told you I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And like, she's very aware of who she is and who's been messing with her life.
Yeah. And it's so funny.
Bizarre.
And the reason he's gone after her is like, I'm going to get fired if you don't come back.
Yeah. I feel like she should be dating Deadpool or something.
Right?
Just completely aware that she's a comic book character.
Oh man. If you could get Ryan Reynolds just to make a cameo as Deadpool, that would be good.
That would be good. Yeah. I don't know if Marvel would sign off on something like that, but it would be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of back and forth, and it's like, mind you, I like the clothes, and the bit with the belly button was amazing. And if you read the wiki, that was something that the editors did, is they would draw her in these outfits sometimes, and her belly button would be showing, and they would erase her cleavage or erase her belly button because it was too sexualized for the time. Like,
Oh,
that's
Barbara
how-
Eden, the entirety of I Dream of Jeannie. The only reason her outfit looks like that is to not show her belly button because they couldn't show that on television.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. So in her world, like, belly buttons don't exist.
No.
But
Well, I mean, you're not
again,
really born there.
Yeah. And again, that's one of those little things of like, okay, this movie came out in the 80s, early 90s. Who knew that? Like, you wrote this very inside baseball gag. Who knew that?
The person who was writing it, the people decided to do a deep dive, I guess.
Clearly. But, like, I wonder if that joke would have landed if you didn't know. Like, I thought it was kind of funny, and then I read the wiki. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. But, you know, it's not like people had Wikipedia to reference, right?
See, I got it because I was listening to him. He's like, no, see, when I draw you and I put in your belly button, they erase it.
Yeah, they're basically explaining the gag. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they make it approachable, but it's, I thought it was this wonderful piece of history that was part of the strip that was inserted as this minor plot
Oh, it's
point.
brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really brilliant.
Yeah. No, I dug it thoroughly.
Absolutely. And I kind of liked where Mike is, he's like, they came in and then I smashed this thing on him. And then there's the other guy is like, and he's kind of like upset. He's like, I've never done that before.
My favorite Mike bit was when they were being chased and there's some sort of distraction. He drives off the road and then hits this sign.
Yeah.
And, where was that pointing to?
La Verde, something Verde.
Porto Verde.
Porto Verde. 30
like
kilometers.
That. Yeah. And he picked it up. And then he just kept carrying it around with him.
For the rest of the movie.
For the rest of the movie. When they went into the bar, he set it outside. But when they came back out, he went and grabbed it and picked it back up. I'm like, what are you doing? Why is this a thing? I think it was the only thing he needed to hold on to because at this point he'd fallen in love with his own character, Brenda Starr, or the character he's been hired to draw, while the stranger's making moves on her too.
Yeah.
And then you get this bizarre love triangle, which of course would be indicative of the strip because that probably happened all the time in the strip.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
because he talks about like who's going to get enamored with you.
Yeah, always looking longingly at her because he drew himself into the strip. He became a character that was going to get involved anyway any other character would have.
Oh, I love the bit where he goes to the cafe and he's waiting and he opens the paper. It's like the adventures of Mike Randall.
Oh, yeah.
And it's him in the cafe and then a gypsy shows up.
Yeah, because somebody's writing him into the strip.
Yeah, because like in this world, he's the fictional character.
Yeah, there's some wonderfully brilliant comic strip logic stuff, but if you don't have any of that knowledge, it's just like, what is happening? It becomes more of a Family Guy non sequitur.
Yes.
And I guess there's enough because he sees it in the strip, so and then it happens. So. In a way, I don't know why he wasn't manipulating his own fate there. Like, why didn't he bring his tools with him? And that way he could manipulate how the story went. So if they were getting, this is a good remake idea.
I was thinking like he could go.
For example, if they get caught in quicksand, which, you know, I hate as a movie trope, but as a comic book thing, it would be pretty funny. And then no way out. And then he just draws himself a rope. you know?
Or there's also like he reads the comic strip. He's like, oh, I'm a fictional character. He's like, what can I do? And he goes to the newspaper, but like with fake mustache and like a hat and says, can I be a cartoonist? And there's like, we'll give you a tryout. And then he draws it so that Brenda has to come back so he can find her.
Yeah. He had this powerful tool. I mean, if you can put yourself into the strip, then you probably can manipulate the world around you. I thought that was more I'm talking about it, the more of a missed opportunity I think that was.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been very, very funny. Or he could have been the guy who's like, well, if I was writing the strip, what I would do is we would do this and that would work. Like when they're on the boat, well, there's obviously got to be some way to get off this boat in case the boat sinks. So we'll sink the boat and then we'll get on another boat.
Yeah, and you can still keep that cliffhanger that a strip would have. And that's why they come so fast. It's because
Yeah.
they're 3 panels, right? So they happen a lot in this movie. Lots of little gags. Like you watch the trailer and it feels like it's going to be kind of an Indiana Jones kind of thing, and it's really not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very interesting movie because it's basically all this wonderful, crazy ideas that have never really been tried before. Probably would have failed if it got a wide release. It didn't, so nobody even saw the thing.
They keep talking about like the Hope, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope things where they're like on the road, and they did like cartoon versions of that where it's they're going on a journey, but there's little stories in between each little bit as each section of the journey is done. And that's kind of what they're doing here.
Yeah. Which again, Bob Hope discovered Brooke Shields, so nice nod back to the road movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if that was
it feels like a road
intentional.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of rework this idea a little bit. The MacGuffin's silly. I don't know if I like it or not, but now we kind of have an interesting idea with the artist manipulating the story. And I kept thinking, like, there's no real big villain in this movie.
There's the Russians.
I kept thinking
not really.
Not really. I kept thinking the stranger was the villain, but he never wound up being villainous at all, which,
Oh, I thought that that's the whole thing.
Anybody with an eye
shows up
patch.
with an eye patch.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Anybody with an eye patch is automatically evil.
Yeah. And let's just that was the whole thing with Hot Fuzz. Make it Timothy Dalton. And there you go.
Yeah. I wonder if they gave him the eye patch because of this movie, but
I don't know.
But yeah, eye patch equals evil. But yeah. I like that it wasn't that. It was just that's how they drew him in the strip, so that's how they drew him here. Mysterious stranger. Like he just shows up in a little covered canoe.
Yeah. I don't know. For a while, eye patches were kind of hot. Like I remember in Days of Our Lives, there was a character literally called Patch who wore an eye patch.
Yeah.
And he was a sex symbol. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, is lack of depth perception very sexy? I guess so.
I guess so. And I mean, maybe that's more of a nod to the soap opera aspect of a strip like this. So I'm trying to think of what a good hook would be. But honestly, you do have the rival reporter. She's definitely an antagonist. The Russians are antagonists.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be an outright villain, unlike the way the movie starts, where there is a villain. And she literally falls on top of him.
You know what? You can lean in to having an outright villain while still also maintaining that whole idea that the paper is going to go under at any point, while still making a note about journalism now, where you'd have this guy, some sort of villain, who's trying to manipulate all the newspapers into doing the right sensational stories. And Brenda Starr figures out who it is, and she's on the trail to try and stop him. While also saving her paper.
Well, I like the idea of this because she lives in a fictional world.
Yeah.
So if there's commentary about the real world and journalism, it's happening on the writing and art side. So what if the real villain of this story are the people who are creating it?
Ooh.
And unwittingly so, right? You can still have Mike falling in love, but she's pissed off because they're the ones doing it.
Yeah, she could be like,
you're guilty of
Mike?
this. Yeah.
Oh, what would be so good is if he gets them out of a thing and she's like, this is the problem. The way you did this is the problem.
So, you can still have it set in her fictional 40s world, which I'm fine with, and then do it on modern day. And modern day is trying to make commentary on how these strips have to change to survive or struggling to survive. And it's their last gasp of trying to make a commentary on how the world is within the strip. Well, you're just as guilty as anybody else because you were making up this propaganda and you were fucking with my life.
Yeah. Oh, and you can have the sensationalism too, where she's like, look, I'm not complaining about the outfits. I love the outfits, but let's be realistic here. Isn't part of that.
Yeah.
so that you're sensationalizing what's happening
Yeah,
here.
so if Mike's written himself into the story and is able to manipulate the world, he is literally trying to manipulate himself into a relationship with Brenda Starr, which isn't cool.
No. Oh, no.
Right? So that makes him the villain, and he doesn't even know he's the villain.
Yeah, and he has certain powers, but we would like to have it where he's like, when it comes to her, he's a bit powerless because he doesn't realize he'd made a character that was that strong-willed.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, over time he wouldn't have been the original creator, but now he's taken somebody's idea. Like the one thing that actually bugged me about the movie was this man was drawing the strip.
Yeah.
That is historically created and drawn by women.
Yeah.
So I honestly, Mike being there was already bugging me, but I didn't know that until after the fact. So it didn't bug me while I was watching it. But once I learned about the history of the strip, I'm like, well, they were so referential to the history of the strip.
Yeah.
And then they left the female creator out. But in this context, it kind of works because the character of Mike is falling in love with his own creation or the character he's been hired to write and draw.
And it also could be it's because, again, they didn't want women doing the drawing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there was a whole Disney thing about that.
Well, I mean, if you're making it modern day, that's changed, but it still really is a boys' club within the comic community, but mainly because women don't like to, for the most part, to tell the same stories that men like to tell stories for the audience that it's been drawn for. So, I mean, it's changing, and I like that. But this was one of those historical pieces where a lot of firsts were happening. And the idea that Brenda is so strong-willed and stuff comes from her previous creators. The strong women who put that into her.
Yeah, and you can also have it where she tells Mike, I don't know why you're drawing this. This isn't for you. Well, why are you even here?
Well, I wouldn't even do that, but because you kind of want to keep her in as much character as you can while still being aware. So, yes, she's pissed off, but she has agency even among the person who is manipulating her life. And that shows the power of the character and how she's going to overcome her major adversary. It's like she starts realizing the adventure she's on is complete nonsense.
Nice.
And challenges the creator to do better and be better, because right now what you're doing isn't cool. You are basically writing yourself into the story to get with me, and that ain't right. Because she's destined to be with the stranger, Basil St. John.
Yeah, and she could also have, I do want her a couple times to be like, look at this outfit. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You did this.
Yeah, and this would be, and this would also be a great way for him to, like, when he has those jealous moments within the film that he has, but he just kind of walks around and mopes with his sign. Instead, he is changing it and doing embarrassing things to Basil to diminish him in Brenda's eyes. And it might take a while. Yeah. Well, it might take a little bit for Brenda to see through it, because she might not notice it's happening initially, because you don't want to reveal that right away to the characters. No. But that's just nature of storytelling. But yeah, that gradual realization was like, wait a minute. Let me see your pencil.
Yeah.
But yeah, there could be a lot of fun little things there.
Yeah. And honestly, this is the whole thing too about some art, when it's graphic novels and all that type of thing. When you create a character, there should be like these very basic ideas of what this character is, and deviations from that, people tend to notice.
Well,
like it takes on a life of its own.
Sure. Like when a more visionary creator comes in and shakes things up, the general rule, at least within comic books, is, okay, yeah, if you're going to shake things up with the Avengers or whatever, new members, or dismantle the Avengers, by the time the story ends, you want to leave it where you started. You want to put the toys back in the box for the next person, so everything's kind of in its place. And I'm sure it was the same with newspaper strips too, but there's more of a formula to the strips, the expectations. So this was kind of a romantic adventure strip. So there was just enough adventure for any of the men reading it, but there was the romance to attract the females to read the strip too, because there wasn't a whole lot for a female audience outside of the more funnier strips that just appeal to everybody. But the adventure strips were usually geared towards young boys. So to have an adventure strip that still had those romantic elements that appeal to a female audience, that's part of the storytelling, at least what they thought of in the 40s moving on.
They did. I mean, they do kind of weirdly to do kind of a nod to it where she's talking with Basil and she's like, I've always dreamed of going down the Amazon. And he says, yeah, no, you're that person. Like there were women who were like, yeah, no, we have that sense of adventure and we do want to read these stories. We are very interested. We just kind of want to have a audience surrogate to be in there doing it for us.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good something you can even put in. It's like, okay, Mike's literally starting this adventure. Oh, you want to go to the Amazon? I'll give you what you want because I love you.
Yep.
And it's that kind of manipulation that winds up turning Mike into an unwitting foil. Like he's the unwitting antagonist to our main character. It's not the antagonist of the stories that they're writing, but he is the antagonist of the movie. And him having to let go and go back to the real world is, in this case, he did that because, fictional character was happy with her life in the world she had, and he knew he had to go back and leave that behind. So it's all kind of sappy and sad, but you're happy that everybody that's the way the story should have gone. But man, I do like the idea of she's basically kicking him out of her world.
Yeah. Well, it's her world, really.
And she's going to start writing it herself. Like she's going to take control of it. And
the creation has created her own agency.
Yeah, I really like that. Okay, here's a chance to throw in any last little bits before we get to some casting, I think.
Oh, I'm just trying to think. Oh, the Luba. Every time I saw her, I kept thinking of Frau Farbissima of Austin Powers.
Okay.
She reminded me so much of that. I just expected her at any time to start, Scott!
She reminded me of that Russian from Russia with Love that had the little knife in her boot.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. We didn't even really come up with anything for the Russians, but they're characters within the book. So they are put in situations where Brenda always gets one up on them and they're embarrassed and moving on. Although, oh my God, they both got eaten by sharks.
Alligators.
Oh, that's right. What? Yeah, alligators. It wasn't sharks. It was alligators.
It was alligators.
Yeah. Really fake looking alligators, but I quite
And the
loved
two
it.
captains got eaten by piranha.
Oh, yeah. That's what I liked about this. Like, there were a lot of the 40 adventure films in there, too. So, alligators and piranha. I was shocked there was no quicksand, but we know how I love quicksand.
I know.
Fucking hate. Even though I kind of want a quicksand scene in this movie because it's so stupid.
Well, if we're going to do that, we have to do at least one moment in the Bermuda Triangle.
Sure.
Because that was the other fear that I had as a child.
Bermuda Triangle.
Quicksand, piranha, Bermuda
old
Triangle.
40 movie tropes. And quicksand, I always thought that was like the thing I thought was going to get me at some point in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Quicksand was everywhere.
Yeah, it's just randomly places. You have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, I kept thinking.
Because it's just there.
Even wet cement, I'm like, that could just pull me in. I don't know.
Right? You don't know it's 4 inches deep. You're like, no, there's a portal under there and I'm going to get sucked in.
That's right. All right. Well, okay. Let's get into some recasting here because we got the structure. We haven't got a full plot there, but this was always meant to be kind of vignette-y, and I like the kind of cult nature of it. Now that we have had a hit with Barbie, it shows that this kind of thing can work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me start with mine here. And I thought casting a real redhead was important for Brenda Starr. Because redheads, they get a bad rap.
They do.
Right, Trish?
They do.
My
They
gingered
do.
co-host.
Some of it, to be fair, some of it's a little bit earned, at least for me.
Fair enough.
I take a bit of responsibility.
So for my Brenda Starr, and I feel like this is good for a younger cast that's going to maybe reinvent themselves as stars or whatever, but there might be a few stars in my movie. Madeleine Pesch as Brenda Starr. She played Cheryl Blossom on Riverdale.
Love it.
And more recently, she was in The Strangers Chapter 1.
Mm-hmm. She's very good. And she's kind of got, honestly, she's so pretty. She is a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that whole cast is insanity. Like, what the hell? They were all casted out of porcelain. Yeah.
Yeah.
For my stranger, Basil St. John, I did David Cornsweet. I don't know if we can afford him anymore now that he's Superman, but you may have seen him in Twisters and Pearl. I was trying to find a ridiculously handsome man that wasn't Glenn Powell because I kept using him.
I know. He's so pretty.
For Mike Randall, I was going for a look. My initial thought, I thought he was too old. So I went with Lewis Pullman instead, who was in Top Gun Maverick, and he actually played the Sentry in Thunderbolts.
Nice.
Yeah. For Luba, this is more out of character for what a Boris and Natasha type would actually be, but for some reason I couldn't get it in my head. Like, Kristen Ritter doing a shitty Russian accent gave me so much joy.
And we know she's freaking funny.
Yeah.
So, goddamn, yeah.
I thought, I want to see her being silly. Mm-hmm. So I kind of that and still have that stern badass thing that she brings to Jessica Jones, but just being goofy and funny. I kind of liked it. And we saw her do something similar within, I think, Sonic 3 recently.
Well, if you haven't watched it, don't trust the bee in Apartment 13.
Yeah, I never watched it, but yeah, I know you're a big fan of that. So
it's good. Yeah.
It was probably that Sonic the Hedgehog movie was rolling around in the back of my brain where she was almost doing that already. For Vladimir, I already said that it was a proto Borat, so we might as well cast Borat. Let's put Sacha Baron Cohen in there because he already knows how to do it.
They don't even have to buy the costume.
Yeah, for Libby Lipscomb, I went with Jessica Roth from Happy Death Day.
Nice.
For the editor of the paper, I wanted to bring somebody back from this movie, so Jeffrey Tambor. And
I did as well, but I did a different person.
Okay. And for Professor Kreutzer, I went with Christoph Waltz.
Nice.
And that's kind of where my casting ends. I think we both did Greta Gerwig, so for our director, writer and director, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much my cast. What do you have for yours?
Okay. So for my Brenda Starr, I had Grace Van Patten. She was in 9 Perfect Strangers. She's the person you've seen, but you're not quite sure where.
Okay.
She's very beautiful, and I think she's got auburn hair. So I'm close. I'm right adjacent.
That's fine. People can dye their hair. I was just trying to go for naturals.
No,
that's what I do.
I get it.
And I'm not even sure if that's true or not. She's just famous. Mine is famous for having red hair from that show, so she might not be redheaded.
Nice. For Mike, I went with Diego Calva. He was in Narcos, and he was just a different cast because I'm like, I just want somebody who's maybe a little bit edgier.
Yeah.
To be a cartoonist. Basil St. John, I couldn't get him out of my head, and he may be too old, but I just like the idea of him doing it. And it's James McAvoy. I just think he'd be fun.
Sure.
Libby Lips, Alicia Cuthbert.
Oh, well, if you can actually tell her to get off her ass and act once in a while, sure. She would be great.
I mean, I most recently saw her in Jan, and she's such a good comedic actor, and I think I would like to see her do evil.
I'm glad she's kind of snapped out of her 20s. She kind of missed the best part of her career, unfortunately, because she was off partying too much.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, if you watch the TV show Happy Endings, I still rewatch it. She's wonderful in that.
Yeah, I remember her from 24.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, Happy Endings was 2009 to 2012.
Okay, so she's busy again. That's good.
Yeah. Hank O'Hare, Ruth Codd. She was in Fall of the House of Usher. She's been in the Midnight Club, I think. She's one of Michael Flanagan's, favorites to cast. She's an Irish actress.
Yeah.
Vladimir, this is what I went with. I did political casting. Vladimir is Stanislav Boklan. And the reason I cast him is he worked on the TV show with Vladimir Zelensky on Servant of the People.
Oh boy, that's some digging deep.
Yep. And Luba Valentina Rubitsova, who is on A Big Difference, which is a Russian comedy show, but she's also born in Ukraine. So again, a little bit of political casting just for shits and giggles.
Okay.
Jose Jaime Camille. He's done some comedy. I think he was also in Jane the Virgin. He's just a really cute, adorable guy. He might be a little bit old, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan. And then I just had editor live right. I made that Brooke Shields.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to find a spot for her, and I was hoping something would come to mind while we were talking, but it didn't.
I like the idea of spinning it on its head where she's the one in charge being the problem.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. I would like to put her in the movie for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then my Professor von Krutzger, Daniel Bruhl.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, my director, and that's all I got.
All right. Well, that's pretty decent. All right. As I said, this movie cost $16 million US. It went on to a worldwide gross of $67,000 and $67,878 according to the IMDb. Only 30 of which was in the US on its opening weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it was open for maybe 2 weekends and then straight to video. But clearly even the Europeans didn't know what to do with this thing, and it's split over. It was shot in 86, released in 89 in Europe, and 92, 3 years later in the States.
Yeah.
So, by that point, everything kind of changed in movies and comic book movies.
And I think it kind of also suffered from the marketing of it wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah. The IMDb is a 4.8 out of 10. Which I was a little surprised at how harsh the critics were on this. But Rotten Tomatoes, there actually isn't enough critic scores over there to give it a critic score, but there is an audience score. What do you think it is?
Oh.
Take a guess.
I know. I'm going to hope audiences liked it better, 65%.
Yeah, let's cut that in half at 32%.
Damn it. See, I do this on my heart, and it doesn't usually work.
It's a shame because I think the people who are using IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes per se probably just didn't get what they were trying to do. And sure, is it a great movie? By no means is it. But was I entertained? Absolutely. But I think I got it. And I mean, it's not a Oscar winner. It's there, but there are some brilliant ideas that may not be well executed. But I don't know. I'd still give it a 5.5 or something.
Yeah, I think it just was way ahead of its. It never found its right time. I think that was the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's was really a victim of the distribution disputes and TV rights that kept it from coming out. If maybe it had gotten its opening when it was made, might have been a different story. I love how this movie kind of just addresses the narrative action of a strip. I don't know if the language translates that well, but man, if you're aware of it, it's quite brilliant.
It's quite interesting too. And what I find really funny is there's times where she's doing stuff and all of a sudden you're seeing a whole bunch of her leg, and then the next shot it's covered. And I thought that was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's one point where she's riding the horse and they show her leg behind Basil St. John, and then they show it again. And it's not even showing a bit.
And again, funny. It's like the editors are out there fucking with it and like, oh, we got to cover that up.
Yeah.
I like that. And well, that would be cool for our remake too, where our artist is trying to change something and then it gets changed back to something safer for newspapers because they were so strict about what could be in those things because they were always supposed to be family friendly.
Yeah. Oh, what I would like to have is I want to have a certain moment where she is talking, why would I be out here in high heels? This is dumb. I don't like it. It's not good.
Well, that's guilty of a lot of movies, but yeah, that would be good because yeah, the comic strips are just as bad for that sort of thing. And
Like I'm on a Legend
Catwoman
high
with
heels. That's
and-
the
yeah. Flats. If I'm climbing building, I want flats.
or some really cool like adventure boots. Let's do that just for a bit. She tries to put on shorts and it ends up a miniskirt.
I would love, she's got her luggage and everywhere she goes, there's these wonderful closets full of these wonderful clothes. And then she can just pull out the thing she wants. Like, oh, these are great. Oh, but I need practical footwear.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, she's wearing high heels because the editor changed it to high heels.
Yeah.
Or Mike did. I don't know which, but it would be brilliant. That's some wonderful stuff. But you have to kind of explain that narrative for it to work. Otherwise, people will just call it continuity errors. It'd be like watching Pretty Woman. There's continuity errors all over the place.
Yeah, and until you know the behind story, then you're not going to understand it.
But yeah, a wonderful little movie that deserves a little more attention because I think it would be a cult favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you like this episode and you want to see more like it, give us a 5-star rating and a short review over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts because it helps get more
earballs
on the show. You can also support the show by following us on our social media at Invasion Remake on X and Blue Sky. And we're also Invasion of the Remake on most other socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. You can also email us your suggestions, your corrections, your comments, and fan challenges to invasionofTheRemake@gmail.com. Go check out our archives over at invasionofTheremake.wixsite.com/podcast, and you can find a list of all of our past episodes, over 450 now, plus a list from our 31 Days of Horror, where we've literally watched 31 movies each. So the amount of movies we've watched is like probably quadruple of what the episodes are, well over 1,000 movies at this point. So go check out that full list. And over there, you can also find a handy dandy little button that'll take you to our store. Go check it out. Take you to our dashery. We've got t-shirts, mugs, posters, totes, notebooks, all sorts of cool stuff. So you can get a tank top. Now we're getting to hot summer days, or prep for the fall when you buy that hoodie early. Whatever you want. We got well over 100 designs to choose from, so go check it out and buy yourself something cool because it helps keep this show free for you every single month on month. We've been doing this for a good decade, so it just it helps us pay for the hosting and not much else, but it's just
We've been doing this since we were young.
Yes, we were much, much younger when we started. And we still have plenty more to go, so keep following us, and we'll keep doing it. So we'll get back to a comparison next, and I don't know, we're getting close to July as of these recordings, and we'll be heading over to HorrorCon and hopefully getting some interviews and stuff there as well. So you'll start getting some. August, I'm thinking some of those will drop, but maybe even July. Yeah, so watch for that HorrorCon stuff. It hasn't happened for us yet, so we got all sorts of stuff lined up for you, and it's going to be good year for episodes for sure. So thanks for joining us. Till next week, I've been Jason,
and I continue to be Trish,
and we are out of here.
I'm having a terrible problem with some of those purses you're having me wear. They're just too small. I have to use teeny weeny notebooks or they won't fit. Have the time I have to memorize what people say. I want my stories accurate. Front desk. Hello. Could you remove 2 bodies from the 3rd floor hall? Thank you. A reporter can get sued if she doesn't have the proper notes.
Brenda, I just draw you. I didn't create you. A woman did.
Well, tell her I don't mind the wardrobe. Of course, logically, I couldn't afford it on what I earn. But I understand that the public expects me to look chic, and I wouldn't want to let them down.
Thank you. What?
Were you wounded in the war?
Huh?
What is that?
What?
What is it?
It's my belly button. Everybody has one. Oh, you remember when you went undercover in that belly dancers club and you had to wear that little outfit? Well, the censors wouldn't allow me to, you see, you can't show a lady's belly button in the papers, so I had to erase it.
If you think I'm coming back to the comics to be drawn by a pervert, you are nuts. Get out. I won't have it.